Well, this past week, the annual Kids Count report was released. It is a review of where Arkansas stands with children's health, education, and well-being. Joining me to break those numbers down is Rich Huddleston, Executive Director at Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families, and Tamika Edwards, who is Director of Governmental Affairs for Arkansas Advocate for Children and Families. AACF, as we like to say.
Yes.
So welcome to both of you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks
for having us.
Let's start with one of the things that leaped out to me. 95% of Arkansas children are insured. A lot of this is because of what has happened with Arkansas's health programs over the last couple of years. This is good news, but I got a feeling that you guys are a little cautious about that number, Rich.
Yes, we're very concerned because of some of the happenings in Washington, D.C. right now. As you know, the House has passed out an awful health care bill, and the Senate is on the verge of doing something similar. And both bills are going to contain massive cuts in Medicaid over the next 10 years. I mean, we're talking upwards of $900 billion in cuts over the next 10 years. And early projections are 23 million people nationwide are going to lose coverage. I'm including 3 million children. And the projections are that the uninsured rate for kids as a result of these bills passing will be about a 50% increase in uninsured rates for kids.
We know where the Arkansas House members were on that Health Care Act that was passed right there. Where do you sense Arkansas senators are?
Well, that's the mystery, right? And so Rich is right. In what you said earlier, 95% of children are covered, but there is the concern. So that's the good news that what we have right now. But what's happening on the federal level, we're not quite sure. So we have the House's version, which is public, but we do not have a Senate version, and we know that there are a handful of senators, and our senator is one of them, who is able to make those kinds of decisions. And so we've been very active in making sure that our members of the congressional delegation know what's important to Arkansas, and that we don't want to shift those costs and burden our state, because then if we do that, then we may see fewer services for kids and children, for children and families now.
Let's jump to another number to cover some other statistics that were in here. One of them cites the decline in the economic well-being of Arkansas kids. The state had ranked 46th a year ago. We're 35th now. I looked through some of the subsets that make up that number, and Arkansas's numbers didn't change that much in terms of things like kids in poverty and cost of housing, parents' employment, and everything. It seems to me that maybe some other states made a quantum leap over Arkansas versus Arkansas maybe moving dramatically in the wrong direction. Am I interpreting that right or wrong?
Well, we did have a slight uptick in child poverty, and now we're about 27%, or more than 1 in 4 Arkansas kids are living in poverty. And I think that's right. Some other states have made progress. Now, the unemployment rate in Arkansas has steadily declined the last couple of years. And the hope is that eventually that will mean higher incomes that are able to lift more Arkansas families out of poverty. I have to admit, I'm not real optimistic, because if you look at poverty rates nationwide, there's been some improvement, but I think generally since recession ended, it's really been wealthy corporations and wealthy individuals that have really reaped the gains from the economic recovery. We still have millions of families in this country that are still struggling to find jobs that are going to pay high enough wages to lift them out of poverty. So it's not just finding any job, it's finding a job that's going to lift somebody out of poverty.
There's some stagnant wage data out there. If at best case scenario, it's a little bit improved. All right, just due to time, let's move on and let's talk about the education ranking. Arkansas actually moves up from 38th to 35th. Compared to other states. The two biggest numbers to me that jump out are we see some improvement in older kids in education. 8th graders doing better, I think, on some of their scores, and then high schoolers, we seem to be graduating a few more. That's good news, right?
Yeah, that's good news, but we also recognize that we've made a couple of gains in Arkansas with pre-K with an additional $3 million in the base funding, but we've not made those moves in after-school and summer programs. And so while we want to continue to see those numbers fluctuate with kids in higher grades, we want to also see those improvements with children, with younger children as well.
All right, I'm going to give you the last word, Rich. What do we need to look for as the biggest thing that could move the needle for Arkansas in this report a year from now?
Well, the biggest thing over the next year will be what happens at the federal level, not only in terms of health care, but in terms of the federal budget. The president has proposed a budget $4.3 trillion in cuts over the next decade. A lot of those cuts are going to be in basic assistance for low and middle income families and investments that would improve their ability to succeed. if even half of those cuts are adopted by Congress, you're talking devastation like we've not seen for children and families in a long time.
Hey, no pressure. You're the Director of Governmental Affairs. You need to reverse all that, all right?
Oh, yeah, with prayer and supplication, no pressure at all.
All right, Rich Huddleston, Tamika Edwards, thank you both very much for being here.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk politics with Rex Nelson. He's got a new gig, but it's kind of an old gig. I'll explain after this.